The past few weeks and months have seen a turbulent and at times pretty alarming race for the White House, from Joe Biden being forced to drop out after a series of gaffes to a criminal conviction for Donald Trump and 2 assassination attempts. It has been a campaign, I think we can agree, like no other. And now, with polls open, it's time for the American people to decide who will win. Millions are making their voices heard today. Millions more have already cast their vote. Over the coming hours and days, we should learn whether it'll be Kamala Harris or Donald Trump who will enter the White House next January. Well, tonight, our correspondents will bring us the latest from the Harris camp in Washington, D.C. and the Trump camp in Florida. We're also in Georgia as concerns about voter fraud and interference grow. First, though, let's go to Robert Moore, who reports on a day America decides.
A short time ago, a weary-looking Donald Trump and Melania emerged from the voting booth. This is a presidential election that may return him to the White House or doom him to defeat in a world of renewed legal jeopardy. He told reporters he is not prepared a victory speech.
If I win, I know what I'm going to say, and I don't even want to think about the losing part. I would like to tell all of the people that are online to stay online. We have tremendous Republican lines.
Across America's 50 states and in the capital, Washington, D.C., tens of millions of Americans are lining up at polling stations for what is widely being seen as the most consequential election since the Civil War. From the great cities like New York to the fiercely contested suburbs like Dearborn in Michigan, and from battleground Georgia on the eastern seaboard to the border state of Arizona in the desert Southwest, Americans are making a fateful choice between wildly different candidates. In one quirky corner of America, in the tiny New Hampshire hamlet of Dixville Notch, the 6 residents voted at midnight to some fanfare. In the first completed count of Election Day,
3 for Kamala Harris, 3 for Donald Trump.
Appropriately, Harris and Trump were tied. Last night, Kamala Harris held her last rally in Philadelphia. It was another highly produced piece of stagecraft, accompanied by dire warnings.
If we don't show up tomorrow, it is entirely possible that we will not have the opportunity to ever cast a ballot again.
Lady Gaga entertained the crowd in this city that is a Democratic Party stronghold. And then the Vice President ended her campaign, implying she would be very different from an elderly Joe Biden.
We are optimistic and we are excited about what we can do together. And we know it is time for a new generation of leadership in America.
Donald Trump held his last event in Michigan. This was the former president's last ever campaign appearance of his extraordinary political journey.
Are my kids here?
Instead of celebrities, he had only family, loyalists, and a veteran British ally.
He was the big winner of the last election in the UK, and he's a very spectacular man, very highly respected, Nigel Farage.
Ahead of the results tonight, the nation's capital is being boarded up in case of riots or political violence breaking out in the 76 days of the transition. The White House itself is surrounded by new security fencing, while a mile away the Capitol is being prepared with the stands and the scaffolding for the inauguration of America's 47th president. Robert Moore, ITV News, Washington.
OK, well, let's get the latest now on the 2 main candidates. Our international editor, Emma Murphy, is with the Harris camp in Washington, D.C. And our US correspondent, Dan Rivers, is in Florida reporting on the Trump campaign. Well, let's turn to you first. Emma, what are you hearing from inside the Harris team today?
Well, having spoken to somebody who's very closely involved with this campaign, they say that they have a sense of confidence, but also real fear. And that is born out of what happened back in 2016 when there was a confidence about Hillary Clinton, only for her to be defeated by Donald Trump. But they say that the confidence that they have is built on polling models that they've been perfecting over the past few months. And they say that they've looked at those particular groups in the polling models, like black voters, women, and certain parts of the undecided community, and they say that they are hitting those targets and in some points exceeding them. So that is giving them some hope that this might not be quite as close as the polls suggest. But I think that probably is pretty optimistic. There's no doubt that this is incredibly close. This is where Kamala Harris will come this evening. It's her old university. She first came to this campus when she was 18 years old. 42 years later, she will stand at that podium just there behind me in about 12 hours' time. She will be hoping that by that point enough polls will have come through that she may have some indication as to whether or not she is going to be the next president of the United States.
Emma Murphy in Washington, thank you. And turning to you, Dan, what are former President Trump's plans tonight?
Well, he was on stage until 2 a.m. Local time in Michigan. He got back here in West Palm Beach at about just before dawn. So obviously pretty tired. We saw him appearing to vote this morning with his wife, Melania, sounding pretty hoarse and a little bit low energy, it must be said. Look, we know he's going to watch the results coming in from his Mar-a-Lago estate about a mile away from where I'm standing in West Palm Beach. And if and when he decides to come here, that's not guaranteed, then he would be appearing in the convention centre behind me a lot later in front of a crowd, he says, of about 4,000 to 5,000 of his most loyal supporters. But, you know, we got some insights into how he was thinking when he was giving that impromptu press conference today. He said it won't even be close. He's confident he will win, and it will be an absolute outrage if the result takes days.